So get this, podcast listeners. Speaking of Liz Cheney, Joy Reid says the Republican toilet is full. The poop toilet is full is what Joy Reid said of MSNBC. I mean, is this really a news show, MSNBC? Is this really a news network? I mean, because Joy Reid is one of their anchors, and she's talking about the Great Purge in the Republican Party. The Great Purge, one person, right? Liz Cheney. And obviously, Mitt Romney, and there were a few others too. It's just a handful of people, but they all are establishment Republicans. So Joy Reid's talking about the poop toilet is full of Trump Republicans. We're going to set this up, first of all, with Joy Reid talking about the Great Purge. And here it is.
The Great Purge is on. Congresswoman Liz Cheney is on the verge of being booted from her House leadership position, and the GOP's heir apparent is openly campaigning to replace her. That will be Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who represents a wealthy sconce in upstate New York, a Harvard degree-holding former moderate whose belated but total embrace of Trump has propelled her to the front of the line. Her only apparent qualification is her willingness to repeat the big lie over and over and over again, even after the Capitol siege on January 6th. And naturally, she was among the 139 House Republicans who tried to invalidate the results of a Democratic election. Now Stefanik says she supports the sham Republican audit of the vote in Maricopa County, Arizona, which is being conducted by a private firm that is literally called the Cyber Ninjas, with the help of a January 6th insurrectionist to boot.
I mean, I feel like I'm listening to Pravda, the Soviet news agency, because they just say all the crazy stuff on MSNBC. First of all, it's hard to pull that apart, of course, but Joy Reid saying, well, in Arizona, you can't have a forensic audit of the election because we might find out what happened. We can't do that.
Sorry for your luck, comrade.
Exactly. We can't do that. And the Great Purge, I mean, now Liz Cheney is their best friend, of course. Naturally, if Liz Cheney ever ran for president, then naturally they would hate her. I mean, what do you think of this MSNBC thing? I mean, who watches this thing?
I'm always amazed that every time you bring up anything about the 2020 election, how they become unhinged. If you even mention the word audit, which is basically just verifying that the votes that were cast were legitimate, they go nuts. They go crazy. It's almost as if you're asking if you can beat their oldest child or something. And it tells you something that they are, I think that they have serious questions in their own minds often. And so they'll try to make you look like a fool because you want to verify the votes and an audit. So to me, whenever they're trying to make fun of you, there's something to look at. And that's what the show has become, an echo chamber for crazy left-wing liberal progressives. So I'm not always concerned about what they're saying. I take more entertainment in it, but I think that they have become almost unhinged about the election of 2020.
They really have. And then of course, then you have Michael Steele, who calls Trump a rhino because Trump is there's a battle in the Republican Party between Donald Trump, obviously, as we all know, and the establishment. And Karl Rove is part of the establishment. Karl Rove has all these money connections. And because if Karl Rove is in charge of a particular person's senatorial election or presidential election, he's going to be able to raise a lot of money because of all of his connections with the Bush administration and the Bush family. So Trump is trying to seize those connections. And so Michael Steele, of course, who's regularly on MSNBC as a contributor, a senior political correspondent or something like that they call him, which is kind of funny. We have a clip on him attacking Trump naturally, and here it is.
The going after Karl Rove is hysterical because everyone in the party knows what Karl Rove has done. He's certainly not a rhino, just like Liz Cheney isn't a rhino, just like I'm not a rhino. The only rhino is Donald Trump. That's the crazy part.
So Matt, the only rhino is Donald Trump, coming from Michael Steele. I mean, talk about an insult.
I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you. I mean, it sounds like name calling right here. Michael Steele is one of the most self-serving individuals in politics that I can remember. The reason why he's such a commentator on these shows like Joy Reid and Bill Maher is because he gets on the show and really just goes after conservatives and Republicans. I went back and I was trying to.
And they pay him a lot lot of money for that too,
They
by the
pay
way.
him a lot of money. I was trying to look up and see if he's ever maybe taken it to Black Lives Matter or anything on any organization that's on the left side of it. And I can't find a single time where he was willing to speak out for that. But he comes on there, trashes Republicans. They like to use this theory that we're in a big tent. And Lyndon Johnson once had a quote: "Is it's better to have people in your tent pissing out than someone outside your tent pissing in."
I would probably agree with that. Yes.
Right. But what do you
Doesn't sound like any fun if someone's pissing in your tent while you're in it.
what do you do about the person pissing on other people in the tent?
Well,
and that's really where Michael Steele is right now. Some of his comments on Joy Reid's show are really beneath him. I'm shocked and disappointed by those comments. I can't believe I actually voted for this guy at one point.
And he's the former head of the Republican National Committee, and his job, of course, was to grow the party. Now he's spending all of his time trying to destroy the party because he wants to be part of the establishment. And there's a long history with this guy, by the way, that goes way back, including during the Obama administration, which we'll talk about soon. Thoughts on this most recent clip?
I find it interesting that Michael Steele was defending Karl Rove because I don't know how many people remember, but in 2016, I think Karl Rove went after Trump then too and said there's no way this man, he got out a silly little whiteboard and he said this is why Trump can't win. And it speaks a little bit back to what you were talking about earlier, the nepotism. It's really about those guys gaining their own power and enriching themselves. And that's what we reject. I know collectively, us three as Republicans, people enriching themselves and just pushing themselves up, and to do it by destroying the Republican Party and saying you are a Republican is a disgusting thing to see, but you see it every day. And that's what I think we're witnessing here.
It is. And Joy Reid, of course, also said on MSNBC, while she's talking to Michael Steele and asking Michael Steele about his thoughts about the ouster of Liz Cheney and the party purge, she actually finishes the segment with, well, the poop toilet is full, meaning I guess the Trump voters and the poop toilet is full. I mean, it's unbelievable. We have that clip. And here it is.
The question is, was she full of crap then when she was hanging out in Bush world and Romney world, or is she full of crap now? I don't know. So either way, crap is crap. And it is the best reflection of where the GOP is right now, is they are about to knock out a principled woman for crap. And I think we need to be honest about what it is. Donald Trump brought the gold toilet into the RNC, into the party, and everyone thinks it's a pool. And they're just diving in.
And
they're just diving in.
But I mean, Eugene, they're diving in, and the poop toilet is full. It's not like they're diving in and it's empty.
Okay. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is what is called journalism at MSNBC. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is Michael Steele speaking with Joy Reid about the poop toilet is full of Trump voters and Trump supporters. And then even Michael Steele attacked Elise Stefanik, who took the place of Liz Cheney, and called her, a name as well, which I'm not going to repeat. Can you imagine if a Republican did that to a woman?
Oh,
I mean, look, guys, this is the person who wants to run for governor of Maryland, Michael Steele, potentially. And in addition to that, this is the person who is regularly attacking the Republican Party and saying, it's too conservative. And because Trump voters really aren't conservatives, he's conservative. Thoughts?
He's using the word crap. And like we were just using the Lyndon Johnson quote with the peeing in the tent. I mean, and he's not really going just after Trump. He's going after Republican voters, like good-working, hard-working Americans that simply agree with like American first agenda, or maybe they agree with immigration, or maybe they agree that Joe Biden is doing just a horrible, lousy job. And he's going after them, saying they're jumping into a golden toilet and using it as a pool. It's disgusting comments, and I just really thought better of Mike, to tell you the truth, than the comments that he makes. But it's important, I think, for conservatives to realize why he is there. He is there he's paid a very handsome salary to go after people like us.
That's exactly right.
And that's a great point, Matt. And what Matt's saying is, 76 million people voted for Donald Trump, whether they like that or not. And those are the numbers that they agree on, at least right now. So that's 76 million people that Michael Steele is willing to go out there and insult and say that he's part of the new Republican Party by insulting 76 million people. The reason that Donald Trump was so popular was not because of his flair or his flash or whatever. It's because Donald Trump was the first one to say, I'm going to speak to you like you deserve to be spoken to. I'm going to speak to you like the hardworking Americans that you are. You love this country. I love this country. I'm going to do everything I can to get some of the barriers out of the way for you to go to work and and live the American dream. And you know what? Every ethnic background flourished under Donald Trump. And that's what they hate.
They do hate that, especially Michael Steele, because Michael Steele, of course, here he is, first black RNC chair, but he was the RNC chair during the Obama administration. And as a result of that, he felt like he was potentially, in my opinion, he always felt like he should have not been the chair of the RNC when you had the first black president who was a Democrat. And so that's just my personal opinion, that he really used the Republican Party. He wasn't ever a Republican. And I think this kind of proves it, doesn't it? I mean, and this is the same guy saying the poop toilet is full and using all this other foul language. He wants to be governor of Maryland. I mean, he's calling the Republican Party's crap, Republican Party members, the voters, crap. I mean, how's that going to work for him when he runs for the primary?
It's ironic. Back in October, when he floated those rumors of possibly running for governor in the future, I got a phone call from a journalist in Maryland Matters.
They're not journalists.
Yeah, asked me for his quote.
But oh, by the way, we're going to send this to Maryland Matters. So,
well, I mean, journalists, Democrat operative.
They're paid for. They're bought and paid for by the Democrat Party. Yes.
Well, the journalist asked me. He's like, "Well, what is your opinion on Michael Steele potentially running for governor?" And my first reply was, "Well, what party is he planning on running for?" And I said, "Are you
saying that about Governor Hogan too?
Are you going to print that?" And he's like, "Oh, I won't print that, delegate." I'm like, "No, I want you to print that. I want you to put it in the article because I think it's an absolute joke."
Because you said it.
Yeah, right. That Michael Steele would even consider running for governor in Maryland after some of the stuff that he said. There's no conservative in the state that would vote for this guy. I think he's kind of a clown. And that none of those comments really made it into the article.
Of course not. Of course not. Because they want Maryland Matters and all of the left-wing media, they want to blow up the Republican Party. And what better way to do that than to get Michael Steele to run for governor of Maryland?
I don't know about your opinion, Brian, but they keep trying to make like guys like him like legitimate. And they do it from a side where it was like, well, he's going after Trump and you're a Trumper. Like, I identify as a conservative. I've been a conservative a long time before Donald Trump became president, and I supported him. And Michael Steele just doesn't go after Trump. He went after Mike Kelly up there in Pennsylvania, a congressman up there for his statements on Liz Cheney. He's going after Lauren Boebert for her stance on Second Amendment rights and carrying a firearm. So this guy, I don't know where he stands and why anyone even thinks that he's a Republican, other than he self-identified one time on a volunteer voter registration as a Republican.
It is a great question.
Is that a trans Republican? Is that what you're going to say?
Who writes the strategy for these guys? Do you think MSNBC and CNN and Maryland Matters, they all get together and are like, how can we screw up somebody's campaign so bad?
Yes.
I got an idea.
I do.
And then they go to Michael Steele and he buys it. And then Karl Rove gets out his little whiteboard and says, you should run, where all of us, even moderate Republican says, please do not run, because it's a Democrat win if you win. I mean, if you run, because they're going to run somebody, if they can find somebody even further left of him to run as a Democrat. And then here we are again.
Exactly.
And that's what happened.
No, it's perfectly well said.